Breaking news coming in on this big story that we continue to track on CNN News 18. Now, we've managed to access the full petition that's been filed by the Uddhav Thackeray faction. Now, this petition says that the Uddhav faction has absolute and overwhelming majority in all the organizational units of the party, and it goes on to add that just the legislative majority is not enough. Taking this across to my colleague Ananya, who's brought us that information. Ananya, how much of water this is actually going to hold, considering the legislative majority is with the Eknath Shinde BJP faction?
Well, definitely the legislative majority is with the Eknath faction of the Shiv Sena, and definitely that is the whole and sole ground on which the Election Commission also in fact granted the bow and arrow symbol to Eknath Shinde faction of the Shiv Sena. But at the same point of time, we have accessed the full petition copy of, in fact, the Uddhav Thackeray faction, which clearly goes on to say that the EC order is not correct and should be, in fact, stayed at this point of time. In fact, it also goes on to say that there is no orders in the interregnum can be passed when already the Constitution bench is deciding on whether or not the disqualification of those 16 MLAs is justified, or whether the speaker can actually exercise its right when already a motion is moved against him. So definitely this is something that would be turning out before the topmost road of the country. The petition also goes on to say that there is an overwhelming majority that the Uddhav Thackeray faction enjoys in fact, the organizational echelons of this particular political party, and there is a difference between the legislative split and the political split of a particular political party, and merely the legislative majority cannot be a basis for granting of this particular symbol, is what the Uddhav Thackeray faction has to say. But we also have to remember that this is an order that's been filed by a constitutional body like the Election Commission of India, and any kind of a challenge to this particular order remains to be a very, very narrow one. However, how much of all of these arguments that are being levelled by the Uddhav Thackeray faction would sustain is a matter of time, and we'll get to know when the matter is actually heard by the topmost court of the country. But today, when the matter was actually tried to be mentioned through unlisted mentioning, the Chief Justice of India clearly denied, saying that the procedure is same for everyone, and Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi should come again tomorrow and mention the matter as per the mentioning procedure, and should get himself first a mentioning serial number and then actually mention this particular matter. So what happens next into this particular case is something that we'll have to wait and watch, and how things pan out is something different. But what we are seeing, that this political war of words is already begun and is going on since the past few days.
Absolutely.
Since these orders have come out on 17th of February, and this petition, which is a very, very detailed one and has been accessed by CNN News 18 exclusively, clearly goes on to say that the Election Commission has not acted in a neutral manner, and this is the charge that the Uddhav faction has been alleging over the Election Commission of India. However, how much of this holds before the top court is a matter of time.
We'll get to know tomorrow. Absolutely, Ananya. Thank you so much. In fact, this is what we are also presenting for our viewers. Considering the Supreme Court refused the listing of the matter today, considering it was not coming through the due process, Abhishek Manu Singhvi is supposed to go ahead and list it particularly. Why are we calling this blow after blow for the Uddhav Thackeray-led faction of the Shiv Sena? Let's actually break down those very points for you for once and for all. What is the setback? Why it all started? So setback number one, the MVA Sarkar fell after that rebellion that was led by Eknath Shinde. Of course, that entire alliance between the Congress, NCP and the Shiv Sena fell apart after the Eknath Shinde faction came out of that alliance, and the entire MVA government fell in the state of Maharashtra. Now, the next big blow was when the Election Commission said that the Shinde faction are the true claimants of the Shiv Sena name, and that's when the offering of the name and the symbol of the bow and arrow symbol was given to the Shinde faction. That was a big blow for the Uddhav Thackeray-led faction. So party's bow and arrow symbol was retained by the Shinde camp after the ECI's decision, where the Election Commission of India said that they are the true claimants of the symbol along with the party name. Now, the fourth blow for the Uddhav faction was the Supreme Court refusing that urgent hearing on Uddhav Thackeray's plea, something that Ananya was presenting just a short while from now, that it needs to be heard, but not on an urgent basis. It needs to follow a due process. And that entire plea, remember that plea and the caveat against that plea has been also filed by the Shinde faction in the Supreme Court. So that also was a setback. So that also needs to be looked at. Now, fifth one is the Shinde camps taking claim to the Vidhan Sabha Legislative Office. The Vidhan Bhavan has been taken over by the Shinde faction, and they are now there after that big meeting. Taking this across to Mihir, my colleague who's joining me on the broadcast for more, what exactly is happening when it comes to this big tussle, this clash of ideologies, this clash of power, when it comes to these two factions of the Shiv Sena? Mihir, right now, where are you at? What is really happening?
Absolutely. I'm at Vidhan Bhavan right now. Remember, all the members and the leaders who are present here, in fact, they had visited the Shiv Sena official office and taken claim of it, taken control of it, have left from here. What we are hearing at this point is that, they are not really moving fast in this particular direction. There were certain reports which suggested that now their next target would be the shakhas, which they will take control of. But while speaking to some of the leaders who are present at Vidhan Bhavan, they clearly stated that their idea to have this rebellion on the first place and form a new government was to continue the legacy of Balasaheb Thackeray, which they were believing that it was getting compromised to some extent by having this alliance with NCP and Congress, and that's why they took the decision. As far as the shakhas are concerned, as far as Sena Bhavan is concerned, they will not really pressurize anyone. In fact, those people who are controlling the shakhas, the Shakha Pramukh, remember, Shiv Sena is a grassroots level of a party which has several shakhas across many places, and there are as many as 277 shakhas where a lot of social work is done. Remember, they believe in the idea of doing 80% social work and 20% politics is what a term was coined by the late Balasaheb Thackeray, and based on which and based on his teaching, this party has grown so far. So that basic structure is something they will not really fiddle with. They will not try and take control of it. But we have seen today that many of the leaders of the Eknath Shinde faction did visit the Vidhan Sabha office, and they took control of it, and they also held a meeting out. They also gave out a kind of alert to those other MLAs who are still siding with Uddhav Thackeray that before the budget session there could be a whip, and if the whip is issued, they will have to follow it. So clearly they are giving some sort of feelers that we are the boss now, we are in control, especially with the EC order, and that is something which the opposition at this point is not ready to take. In fact, Uddhav Thackeray made it amply clear, not only in the petition but also in his address today, that he believes that there is a lot of bias in the decision given by the EC. In fact, he was hoping that while the EC had decided that these are two factions of one party, the kind of ruling that it gave was really biased and not constitutional to a great extent. He also demanded that the election of the EC representatives should be done in a very democratic way, because it appears that this agency is also being misused by the centre, which is trying to clearly disintegrate the Shiv Sena at this point. And as far as the Uddhav Thackeray faction is concerned, they'll continue to fight till the end. They are pinning up a lot of hopes on the Supreme Court decision. Remember, there was a miss by them today, but they are hoping that they'll get some justice, not only in getting a stay at the EC, but also with the disqualification plea that is pending in the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. Mihir, stay on.